watches a tape full of creepy imagery and a creepier girl. 1 week later, they're found dead from sinister but mysterious causes. And when our lovely heroine becomes the latest viewer, she has only days to save herself and her family from this deadly curse. Number 99. The Cell. Striking a note somewhere between hallucinogenic nightmare and cop versus serial killer suspense thriller, The Cell made an instant impression on viewers through Tarsem Singh's vivid and surreal visual style. The premise: a cop trying to find a serial killer's next victim before she drowns in his jigsaw killer-esque contraption, is decent as is, but most of the film's action takes place inside the mind of the comatose killer, giving way to the film's artistic sets and sequences. The story is original, but it's the delivery that makes this film a standout within the realm of psychological horror. Number 98. Black Swan. One of the greatest tragedies of art is that the level of introspection necessary to make something beautiful is inversely proportional to the amount of socializing you have to do to get anyone to notice it. That unfortunate contradiction is at the heart of Black Swan, in which Oscar winner Natalie Portman plays a ballerina whose obsession pushes her to greatness, but away from other human experiences, and eventually into madness. Darren Aronofsky films Black Swan like a subtle character piece, eventually letting his horrifying tale bloom into a kaleidoscope of self-destruction. The madness is real, for it is what our protagonist believes, and skillful filmmaking and exceptional performances make us believe it too. Number 97. Candyman. There is almost too much to love about Candyman. Philip Glass's original score, with its gothic, funhouse-esque organ, helps elevate the story's mythic nature. The pacing is deliberate, with exactly the right amount of jump scares and shockingly gory visuals in just the right places, and some of them are downright unexpected. One thing that's maintained the horror genre's popularity is that, like most literary mediums considered trashy or cheap by the mainstream, there's always some telling facet of our cultural identity being explored, where Candyman excels in its ability to keep this function of horror up to date as a modern fable about the brutality of life in urban, compressed neighborhoods, while fitting comfortably in among Daniel's mother has been controlling his life as long as he can remember. Even when she dies from the bite of a Sumatran rat monkey, she comes back as a grotesque zombie, forcing Lionel to stay home and take care of her and everyone she bites, until the situation finally gets out of hand, or more out of hand. Peter Jackson didn't invent Splatstick, but he came damn close to perfecting it with Braindead. It's a bloody good comedy with cheeky performances and unforgettably gross set pieces. The zombie dining table scene alone would have made it a cult classic, but then Jackson pulls out all the stops for a finale that's gorier and funnier than any other zombie massacre before it or since. Number 95. Trick or Treat. Anthologies are tough to pull off. Inevitably, they're uneven, with one or more stories falling short. Worse, they're hard to present as anything other than a collection of tales, with the occasional perfunctory framing sequence that fails to unify them, except perhaps in general theme. And then there's this movie, which not only presents all of its creepy chapters as taking place on one particular Halloween night, but in a non-linear presentation that eventually rewards the viewer by lining everything up in seamless style. The presence of the mascot like Sam only adds to the fun, as do delightfully disturbing appearances by actors like Dylan Baker and Anna Paquin. Thanks to this film, Halloween is no longer just the night he came home. Number 94. The Conjuring. The real paranormal investigations of Ed and Lorraine Warren become fodder for one hell of a scary story, and lay the groundwork for many to come in James Wan's The Conjuring. It's the tale of a family who fall prey to a malevolent spirit who seek the help of the Warrens to save their family in more ways than one. The Conjuring has deliriously theatrical scares and cinematography full of dark little nooks and crannies where you just know evil dwells. But this is more than just a spook house. It's a spook house full of sensitive souls whose lives are devastated by forces they don't understand. Number 93. Horror of Dracula. It seems as though no actor will ever truly surpass Bela Lugosi as the iconic movie Dracula, but Christopher Lee comes closest. His tall, overpowering, and eerily sensual performance in Horror of Dracula brought a new approach to the character and spawned a long line of successful Hammer horror sequels. That approach extends beyond the character. and you'll be singing the Silver Shamrock jingle for months afterward. Number 91. The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man is one of the most celebrated horror films to come out of the United Kingdom. It is also one of the weirdest. It's the story of a devout Christian detective who travels to an island full of Celtic pagans and suspects that they have done something unspeakable to one of their children, which would be pretty scary if those pagans weren't the most delightful people imaginable. Open-minded, free-spirited, intelligent, funny, and wonderful singers to boot. We know something must be wrong, but the Wicker Man throws us completely off the track by warping our expectations. Daring and unconventional, The Wicker Man is the perfect film for the right kind of horror audience. If you expect familiar thrills, seek elsewhere. If not, come hither. Number 90. The Fog. Somewhat underrated compared with some of Carpenter's other beloved films like Halloween or The Thing, The Fog has nevertheless managed to gain cult status and healthy respect for its faithful ghost story style. The setup of the campfire story and the arguably justifiable revenge angle of the ghosts are standout features, to say nothing of the expertly utilized chilling device of the fog itself. Carpenter's film is a nod to classic horror stories like those found in Tales from the Crypt comics, as well as a real-life ship which was sunk and plundered off the coast of Goleta, California. The director composed the score himself because of course he did, utilizing similar, simple yet unsettling techniques to those heard in Halloween. Number 89. Witchfinder General. Why come up with new despicable horrors when history is already full of them? Michael Reeves' damning and disturbing Witchfinder General is the story of Matthew Hopkins, a 17th century professional witch hunter who knows very well that there's no such thing as witches, but uses his position to torture, murder, and extort from paranoid townsfolk anyway. Number 88. The Wolfman. Poor Larry Talbot. All he wants to do is fix his relationship with his estranged father and romance that nice girl who works at the shop in town. But a chance encounter with a werewolf brings out the worst in him, and soon he transforms when the wolf's bane blooms, and only a tragic end, his own or someone he loves, can come of it. Number 87. You're next. The seemingly tired home invasion premise got an extreme wake-up call with You're Next, with a mystery angle inspired by the works of Agatha Christie, a shockingly capable heroine, and a giddily bloody sequence of violence balanced with the blackest of humor. This low-budget film rapidly resurrections pop more than a color version ever could. There's nothing normal in Black Sunday to ground these horrors. This is just the world now, and it is full of evil, beautifully photographed, totally immersive evil. Number 85, Vampire. At the start of a golden age in horror cinema, this oft-forgotten German production, shot in 3 different languages at the dawn of sound filmmaking no less, represents a crossover from silent movie production to the talkies, with a story familiar to many horror and vampire aficionados. There's a village under a curse, and a heroic young occult student that must face the wrath of a vampire. Number 84, House. Unless you've seen House, you've never seen a movie like House. Nobuhiko Abayashi's perplexing but endlessly fascinating haunted house tale is the story of a group of schoolgirls who travel to a country home and fall prey to head watermelons, finger-eating pianos, and killer cat paintings. Meanwhile, someone turns into a pile of bananas. It would be nice to say it all makes sense in the end, but that's not what House is all about. It's a film that takes you over the edge almost immediately and doesn't give you a chance to crawl out of the madness. This film's silly, morbid, beautiful, and unpleasant imagery is your jailer now. You live inside of House. Nothing will be the same. Number 83, The Mummy, 1932. The second Universal monster movie plays a heck of a lot like the first. The Mummy, like Dracula before it, is about an ancient undead evil that seeks love in a modern world and is besieged by experts in mythology and handsome cads who couldn't possibly imagine the woman they love being interested in a monster. But it is also one of the most romantic of the classic monster movies, with Boris Karloff giving a sincerely affectionate performance as the title monster who longs to bring his love back to the 20th century with him. And The Mummy bestows a majesty to its supernatural elements that make the film otherworldly and alluring. Number 82, The Fly. The makeup design may not hold up well today, although really it remains a stunning piece of work. But this cautionary tale of science gone awry still has a way of crawling under your skin as a prime example of horror's fascination with the human body and loss of identity. Scientist Andre Delambre swaps his left arm and head for that of a fly and learns a thing or two about what separates us from the insect world. was essentially a feature-length Twilight Zone episode. Shyamalan made his reputation with this film as a man that takes audiences on thrilling rides with a twist ending. The pairing of a brooding Bruce Willis with the troubled Haley Joel Osment proved a powerhouse combination for a film that was equal parts mystery and horror. This is an atmospheric, haunting jaunt that rewards multiple viewings by encouraging you to go back and pick up on clues you may have missed. Do you see dead people? Number 80. The Host. With its thoughtful blend of classic monster horror, family drama, and environmentalist elements, it's easy to see why The Host earned director Bong Joon-ho comparisons to Spielberg. Particularly moving are the struggles of the Park family, with all their personal shortcomings, as they attempt to evade the authorities and recover Hyun Seo from a rampaging giant creature. Few monster films portray human desperation so well, while also giving us a capably frightening antagonist. Number 79. Carnival of Souls. Mary Henry survives a terrible car accident, but in the aftermath, everything seems wrong. Strange music emerges from the radio. A strange man appears in her mirror, and he seems to be following her wherever she goes. Something is horribly wrong, but is this madness? Is this more? Number 78. Cat People. A young woman is convinced she turns into a deadly jungle cat whenever she's overcome by passion or anger, in Shock Turner's spooky and, for the time, rather bold look at a marital strife. She marries a seemingly nice man, but is afraid to truly reveal herself, setting in motion a series of events that lead to tragedy and horror. Number 77. The House of the Devil. Desperate to move out of her terrible apartment, a college student takes a babysitting job where there's no baby, just an elderly woman who shouldn't be disturbed. Jocelyn Donahue's character misses that red flag, and many, many more, as T. West's subtle thriller comes to a slow boil, while the audience anticipates terror and our self-absorbed protagonist doesn't know well enough not to. Number 76. horrible ordeal in disquieting detail. Free from the fanfare, Fire Walk With Me reveals itself to be one of the most disturbing movies ever made. It's a catalog of human misery. Number 75, 2017's It. It's too soon to decide its true ranking among the best horror movies ever made, but it seems certain that it should be on the list somewhere. Andy Muschietti's impressive adaptation of Stephen King's classic novel captures the wistfulness of youth and the sheer anxieties that came part and parcel with fragile innocence as a losers club of unpopular kids comes face to face with their boogeyman, a killer clown named Pennywise. Number 74, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. A Cold War era examination of American paranoia that has no equal. The original cinematic version of this story about an alien invasion by pod people has appropriately spawned a number of remakes, duplicates, and homages over the last 60 years. But the stark black and white imagery of the 1956 version remains powerful and disturbing. You'll never look at your houseplants the same way again. Number 73, The Phantom of the Opera. In many ways, it all comes down to one single scene as Christine sneaks up behind the Phantom, reaches tentatively for his mask, pulls it away, and reveals his shocked, horrifying face to the audience. Lon Chaney's makeup design remains iconic and effective, and even if watching a silent film presents a challenge to some modern viewers, that moment stands as a landmark in horror history. Number 72, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. This Persian language indie film was an almost overnight success, shot for under $60,000 and premiering to critical acclaim at the Sundance Film Festival. Like the edgy art house films you pretended to like as a teenager, but actually cool, actually gripping, and actually pretty scary. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night exceeds in its slow, patient build and moody stillness. It utilizes elements from the spaghetti western tradition to tell the story of a nameless vampire girl who stalks the streets of the ghost town Bad City in a long cape-like chador, and a young man named Arash who catches her attention. Number 71, Memento Mori. eerily beautiful ghost story of the modern Eastern horror film tradition, made more notorious at the time of its release by its depiction of teenage romance. Told in non-linear flashback, which balances tender teen romance against the rage of a malevolent spirit, the story is suspenseful, frightening, and original. Number 70. Raw. A vegan veterinary student is forced to eat raw rabbit kidneys as part of a hazing ritual. It's a vile and disgusting act, and to make matters worse, she's developed a taste for it and other kinds of meat. All other kinds of meat. Number 69. The Others. The Spanish-American Gothic horror film The Others was an instant classic upon its release. It balances style and story as well as the best of its genre, utilizing suspense and a slow build to carry the audience into its simple yet surprising twist ending. Plenty of the story's elements lend to a foreboding, disorienting feel to the film, like the mysterious housekeepers who simply appear one day and seem to be hiding something. Then there's the children's allergy to sunlight, which necessitates a state of near constant darkness inside their home, or the whispered allusions to what happened that day when Nicole Kidman's Grace supposedly went mad. And, of course, there's the paranormal activity and strange figures appearing out of nowhere. Number 68. The Innocents. A truly pioneering horror film, Clayton's The Innocents is an example of expert arrangement, with the deeply unsettling whole somehow managing to be more than the sum of its already impressive parts. Based on a story by literary modernist master Henry James, with a screenplay written in part by another master of literature, Truman Capote, and with plenty of fear and desperation delivered in a top-notch performance by Deborah Kerr, The Innocents is still a marvel today. A blend of psychological and supernatural horror with a heavy dose of Southern Gothic, this film is singularly stylish as well as chilling. Number 67. Kill List. 2011's Kill List is one of those movies that draws much of its power through the audience having no idea what to expect. But since that doesn't make a very good explanation for why it belongs on this list of great horror films, we'll try to do so without giving away any of its potent mysteries. The gist of Kill List revolves around a pair of ex-soldiers who now try to make a living as contract killers. But what makes this thriller absolutely horrific is in piecing together the disaster in Kiev and how it relates to the slow unraveling of reality that makes things start to feel talk about, read about, and think about long after the credits roll. Number 66, Scanners. With its still remarkable special effects, fantastical yet grounded premise, and utter gross-out moments, many would argue Scanners is David Cronenberg at his best. Of course, the exploding head alone should cement this film on any horror best of list, but the movie is totally exemplary for so many reasons. Michael Ironside's Daryl Revok is unforgettable. Who else could have sold a villain so well while relying mainly on pulling faces and nodding his head during the scanning scenes? And the premise, involving shady corporate conspiracy, unwitting pregnant women, and secret psychic soldiers, is well balanced by the presence of the rebel scanners united by Kim Obrist. Number 65. We Are What We Are. When Iris and Rose's mother dies, it falls to them to take on her duties. The less you know, the better. In Jim Mickles' We Are What We Are, a creepy and gothic nightmare about the cult-like experience of a family that, for generations, has had to do terrible things in name of tradition. Number 64. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Much of Henry's notoriety among horror films comes from the controversy around its censorship and distribution. Though filmed in 1985, it was only picked up for limited release in 1990 in an unrated version. This is due in large part to the onslaught of graphic killings that makes up most of the plot. However, there's a lot to celebrate about this enduring cult movie, which was shot in less than a month for $110,000. Michael Rooker's breakout performance as serial killer Henry earned him tons of acclaim from critics and has been praised for its grim realism. The long, uninterrupted takes and overall mundanity of most of the scenes only make the brutal murders more shocking. In particular, the film's almost total lack of a police presence reinforces the ease with which Henry is able to continue getting away with murder, and gives viewers the horrible sensation that no one is coming to save the day. Number 63. Nosferatu the Vampire. Almost more art house than horror, Herzog's highly stylistic take on Murnau's 1922 film manages to capture all the necessary elements of your typical Dracula adaptation while favoring a singularly slow, romantic vision. Herzog's skill as a director is visible in the sweeping landscapes and deliberate camera work, and the film's score lends an appropriately grandiose air. But Klaus Kinski as Count Dracula gives one of cinema's most eerie and alarming vampire performances, thanks in part to the special effects making dry goo, the living dead, excessive blood and guts realized through innovative special effects. The list goes on. But it's the ambitious Dr. Herbert West who completely steals the show. The young medical student discovers the secret to reanimating the dead, which of course has disastrous effects on those around him. But rather than the standard mad scientist or optimistic hero, Dr. West is in a class all his own. Sure of his own brilliance, dry and sarcastic, a nerdy far cry from the typical macho hero types of most zombie or sci-fi horror films. His exasperation when Dr. Hill's decapitated head refuses to stay upright in a metal pan is still one of the funniest slapstick gags in the broader horror genre. Number 61. Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie's marriage has been shaken by the unexpected death of their child, and a trip to Venice may not be what they need. But they encounter a pair of psychic sisters who insist their dead child is talking to them, and the possibilities begin to twist and turn their minds. Number 60. Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. The master of suspense dabbled in horror and science fiction with this slow burn ecological terror tale about the avian population turning against their human neighbors. Using what at the time were cutting edge effects and generating the kind of claustrophobic scares that would one day become the bread and butter of the zombie genre, the movie depicts the collapse of the world we know with Hitchcock's distinctive style. The movie would go on to inspire many other balance-shifting tales of a world gone mad, like M. Night Shyamalan's laughable The Happening. Number 59. Carrie. There is a particular and tragic horror in watching horrible things happen and being helpless to stop it. Carrie, based on the novel by Stephen King, asks you to watch as a helpless girl is abused by her religious mother and by her sadistic classmates at school. We cheer her every little victory. We cringe at her every moment of pain. Number 58. The Evil Dead. A group of kids travel to a cabin in the woods, are besieged by demons in the original shoestring horror classic, The Evil Dead. Sam Raimi's film was made with almost no money, out in the middle of nowhere, in conditions that punished the cast and crew. But the stress is all there on the screen. Unspeakable acts of violence, camera angles that should have been impossible under those circumstances, and a story that defies conventions and simply rips the characters to shreds. There's a reason why Stephen King called this movie the most ferociously original horror film of 1982. Many of the portrayals of Frankenstein's monster and the seedy assistant Igor since have been inspired by elements of Son of Frankenstein, most notably Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein, which utilizes the same basic plot and even gets memorable gags from the wooden-armed Inspector Krogh of this film. Giants of the horror genre Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, alongside Basil Rathbone as the son of the monster's creator, give solid performances throughout, with Lugosi's hunched from hanging Igor permanently adhering himself to the Frankenstein mythology thanks to a conniving and vengeful spin. The film takes itself a little more seriously than its immediate predecessor, Bride, with director Lee making efforts to avoid the camp while ramping up the drama of the storyline with all its revenge and atonement. The kitschy lab equipment and dramatic shadows make the Frankenstein castle extra spooky, the perfect stage for Lugosi to creep around behind Karloff's towering monster. Number 56. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Philip Kaufman's remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers is so smart, so expansive, and so full of squishy effects that some might argue that it's even better than the original. But regardless of your preference, it's hard to argue that Kaufman's update isn't a vicious horror thriller. Donald Sutherland begins to suspect that the people around him have been replaced by alien life forms, and as he discovers the truth, he also discovers that he may be too late and the world may have already been conquered. Number 55. It Follows. A demon is following you, walking slowly in your direction, and if it ever catches you, you will die a horrifying fate. The only way to get rid of it is to sleep with someone, which passes the curse on to your partner. Number 54. Child's Play. There is no shortage of killer doll movies, but Child's Play remains the standard by which they are judged. It is the story of a mother who goes to great lengths to get her child the doll he wants for his birthday, only to discover it's the gift that keeps on giving. Stab wounds. Number 53. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It has been said that The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari may be the first true horror movie, and if so, the genre started out on a high note. The hallucinogenic tale of a hypnotist who sends a sleepwalker on a mission of death is a nightmare come to life. A vision of madness more explicit than any that came before it, and most that came in its wake. Number 52. Dawn of the Dead. If only it had been given a different title, shadow of its legendary predecessor. But struggle it did, and it's a shame, since it's a propulsive and yet contemplative 21st century take on zombies that's worth multiple trips back to the mall. From pulse-pounding action sequences to some lovely character touches and one of the most wistfully melancholy conclusions of any zombie film, this is a sort of remake that has definitely aged well. Number 51, Wreck. This film progresses in three distinct parallel ways. First, the action keeps rising from the ground floor of a sealed apartment building to its tiny attic. 2. The characters find themselves in smaller and more claustrophobic spaces. 3. The light keeps going down until everything is not only dark, but lit only by night vision. Oh, and did I mention there are demonic zombies? A modern masterpiece of horror storytelling with a relentless structure that demands attention throughout. This Spanish production also brilliantly blends two conceptions of the zombie into a creature that is equal parts science fiction and supernatural. Watch this one in the dark, alone, with headphones on. And number 50, The Descent. The Descent is one of the scariest movies ever made, long before the monsters show up. Neil Marshall's thriller tells the story of 6 women who venture deep into an uncharted cave and become trapped. With no way out, they have to venture deeper and deeper, hoping to chance upon an outlet, and the inky darkness and oppressive claustrophobia is enough to give anyone a panic attack. But, of course, there's more to The Descent than that. There is desperation and betrayal, and an outside force that pushes all of these spelunkers to the brink. And thanks to a remarkable cast and a script that treats them all like real people, regardless of their bizarre circumstances, it's as riveting a survival tale as any yet told. So I am going to stop there at number 50. I will do part 2, 49 to number 1 tomorrow, and that will conclude the list. I hope you have enjoyed. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful